Premier League is regarded by many as the best league in world football. It's played host to some of Europe's greatest ever players, managers, and it's produced moments that will live in football history forever. And one of those sides who is culpable of all three is Liverpool, who have been ever present in the current top flight since its rebrand in 1992. And with that comes 32 years of moments, memories, and of course, fascinating bits of information. So today, we're starting a new series on this channel where we're going to go back in time to look at each of Liverpool's Premier League campaigns and look at those interesting little nuggets of information that will live in the record books forever. Welcome to Good Sport Reviews, and this is 10 fascinating facts about Liverpool's 92-93 Premier League season. Number 10, only 2 of Liverpool's goal scorers that season were from outside the UK. If you look back on the early years of the Premier League, you'll see Nigel Farage's wet dream, with the majority of England's top flight sides being made up predominantly of players from the UK, be it England, Wales, Ireland or Scotland. And Liverpool were no exception, with only 6 of their 26-man squad from the 92-93 Premier League season being from countries outside of our borders. But what's really fascinating about this is that of the 26-man squad, 15 of them contributed to goals for the Reds, and of those 15, only 2 of them were from outside the UK, with Ronnie Rosenthal, who scored 7 that season, being from Israel, and Jan Molby, who contributed 3 Premier League goals that same campaign, coming from Denmark. Number 9, Liverpool's famous boot room was demolished that season. If anyone is a fan of Liverpool Football Club, then you know all about the history of Anfield's famous boot room, the base of operations for all discussions surrounding tactics, players and oppositions, stretching back to the days of Bill Shankly in the early 1960s and continuing through the eras of Bob Paisley, Joe Fagan, Kenny Dalglish and Roy Evans. But what people may not know is that the room, which according to Kenny Dalglish himself could barely fit 6 people in, was actually around during the first season of the Premier League, with it lasting up until 1993 before it was demolished during the managerial spell of Graham Suess. Now, while Graham Suess has demolished a lot of things during his career, including players' legs and the credibility of Paul Pogba, he did not actually request for the destruction of the legendary meeting room, with it instead being a requirement due to redevelopment plans which saw it turn into a press room from then on out. Number 8, it was the first season since 1984-85 that Liverpool didn't win a trophy. Throughout the 1970s and 80s, Liverpool were undeniably the best team in European football and arguably world football, with them winning 11 league titles, 4 FA Cups, 4 League Cups and 4 Champions Leagues between 1972 and 92, which averages out to 1.15 trophies per season. And if you're a Man City fan, then those numbers 1.15 have probably triggered you, and I'm sorry about the PSG defeat. However, the 92-93 season represented the first time since 1985 that the side had gone through a full season without picking up silverware, with them finishing 6th in the Premier League, going out of the FA Cup in the 3rd round following a 2-0 replay loss to Bolton Wanderers, losing to Crystal Palace in the 4th round of the League Cup, and also being beat 6-2 on aggregate by Spartak Moscow in the European Cup. Bloody hell, they didn't even win the Charity Shield, being beat 4-3 by Leeds, condemning them to a rare trophyless campaign. Number 7, it's still Liverpool's worst defensive record of the Premier League era. Liverpool were going through a massive transition during the 1992-93 season, with them losing key players like Ray Houghton, struggling to compete against the rising powers of Manchester United, and being shocked by the phenomenal seasons had by Norwich City and Blackburn Rovers, and nothing showed off the side's fragile nature at the time more than their woeful defensive record, with them conceding a whopping 55 goals, which is the club's joint worst Premier League tally, with it being the same as the following season. Not only that, but it's the most Reds have conceded in a league campaign since 1964, in the season which saw them finish 7th, but still win the FA Cup, so swings and roundabouts, I suppose. To be fair, the side kept 10 clean sheets, but conceding 3 against Oldham, 4 against Aston Villa, and 5 against Coventry City kind of blows that out of the water. Number 6, Liverpool had the highest average home attendance. Nowadays, we're all used to the redevelopment of essentially every home ground in England's top flight in an effort to cram more home fans into the ground like sardines in a tin and charge them a second mortgage just to get a match day ticket. But back in 1992, a lot of grounds were fairly underdeveloped and couldn't contain anywhere near the amount of home fans that we see today. Crystal Palace had a home attendance of around 16,000, QPR almost bang on 15,000, and Wimbledon FC had an average attendance of just 8,000 2,405 across the season. But on the other end of the spectrum was Liverpool, who despite dwindling results and a dip in form, still recorded the highest average home matchday attendance at around 37,009, almost 2,000 higher than second placed Manchester United on 35,084 and almost 8,000 higher than Aston Villa on 29,594, just showing the sheer force of fan support Anfield boasted and still does. Number 5, Mark Walters scored Liverpool's first ever Premier League hat-trick. Mark Walters was a very talented footballer during his prime and can claim to have boasted a terrific career, which goes sadly under the radar, despite winning the 1982 UEFA Super Cup at Aston Villa, 3 Scottish Premier Divisions with Rangers, and of course the 91-92 FA Cup with Liverpool. But he also holds a record for the club that can never ever be broken, with the one-time capped England international scoring Liverpool's first ever Premier League hat-trick. On the 17th of April 1993, Liverpool played host to a Coventry City side who had beaten them earlier in the season 5-1 in a shock result that we've already mentioned now on this list, so please and thank you, that will be all. Clearly, the impetus was on Liverpool to enact revenge, a task Mark Walters looked at and thought he'll be having that other side of curly fries, and took it upon himself to score a superb hat-trick in the process, which marked Liverpool's first ever in the newly renamed top flight. Number 4, Liverpool battling relegation as late as March. If you think of Liverpool battling relegation, then you're probably thinking of Roy Hodgson sat in the dugout struggling against Blackpool like the ghost of tactics past.
Let's not take the piss here.
But actually, Liverpool have been teetering around the relegation zone once or twice before this, but the first of the newly created Premier League era was during the 92-93 season, where the Reds went through major dips in form, which saw them struggle to pick up singular points, let alone consecutive wins. In fact, on the 7th of December up until the 10th of March, when Liverpool beat QPR 1-0, they won just 2 of the 11 matches they played, and following their 2-1 defeat to Manchester United at Anfield, they found themselves in 15th place and just 3 points clear of the drop zone, with a league record of 9 wins, 9 draws and 12 losses up until that point, which just shows how quickly the standard rised across the division and how quickly things were dipping for Liverpool. Number 3, Graham Suess was not at Liverpool's final game of the season. At the end of the 92-93 Premier League season, Liverpool faced Tottenham Hotspur at Anfield with the desperate hopes of sending the Reds fans away from the inaugural campaign with a shred of hope and happiness, and that's exactly what happened, with them beating an 8th place Tottenham Hotspur 6-2 on the day in some sort of eerie premonition of this season. But what people may not know about the match is that manager at the time, Graham Suess, wasn't even at the match. You see, back before they had a staff member for every possible department at a football club, a lot of the everyday operations were solely run by the man in charge, and rather than seeing off his side's season, he instead attended the Coventry City versus Leeds United game in an effort to scout Coventry forward Peter Ndiovu, who never ended up leaving Coventry until 1997 for a different club, so well done, Graham. Number 2, it was Liverpool's lowest amount of wins since 1954. To get the point, you need to get the wins, and earlier on in this list I mentioned how it was Liverpool's worst defensive season since 1964. Well, you have to go back 11 years earlier to see a campaign where Liverpool picked up less wins, with them recording just 16 across the 42 Premier League matches, a number which was equal to the 1954-55 season, and a record which was beaten in the 1953-54 season, which Liverpool were relegated to the then known Division 2. So to put this into perspective, just how poor the 92-93 season was compared to years past, the last time Liverpool picked up so few wins, they were in the division below the top flight, and even then they equalled the record, didn't better it. And number 1, Liverpool didn't qualify for Europe for the first time since 1963. Liverpool and Europe are a match made in heaven. They're like yin and yang, a fish and water, an Arsenal red card against Wolves. But for the first time in 30 years, that changed, with the club's 6th place finish not being enough for them to qualify for the elite competition, and meaning they missed out for the first time since 1963, with the only other time they missed out on European football being during the 5-year ban for English sides following the Heysel Stadium disaster in 1985. It wasn't like nowadays where if you finished in 17th place, UEFA will probably give you a participation award and grant you entry into the Conference League. In the early years of the Premier League, before money became our grand enslaver, if you didn't finish in the top 3, you weren't in Europe, and this marked a major disappointment for a Liverpool side who were considered the elite of the competition. Thankfully, without Europe for next season, things could only get better. Right? And that's our list. Let me know down below any other fascinating facts about the 92-93 Premier League season, and let me know if you are excited for the next episode. Thank you very much, and I'll see you all then.